I'm going to call a meeting to order, and roll call, please.
Mayor Breeden.
Here.
Mr. Mauer.
Here.
Mr. Blades.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Heyman.
Present.
5 present. We have a quorum.
I'm going to ask us to make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
Okay, if you'll stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Our Father in heaven, as we gather together as a council this evening, we ask for thy blessing upon us. We're thankful for the many blessings this community enjoys and for the fellowship and friendship we have amongst each other. We pray that thou will give us guidance and direction that we might do what is best in thy eyes for this city. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you. We are inserting an item in here. Rika has something that before public comment, she would like to say to all of us to help us understand where we are on the voting.
So I posted on Facebook earlier today, but I just wanted to make an announcement to let everybody know that there's up to 100,000 ballots in Kern County that have still not been counted, and that's per the Kern County elections official in Bakersfield. So all that means is it's going to be delayed a little bit. We don't know if we're going to swear in at the first meeting or not, but it's not a problem. Everybody's votes will be counted. Right now, the vote difference compared to 2016 is roughly 5,000 to 6,000 votes we're waiting on. Or 1,000, yes, sir. So that's the differential in the mayor race from this year to last year. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to call me, email me, whatever. I'll get updates once a week, and I'm happy to share. Okay?
Okay, thank you. The next item, we are going to do public comment items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council may do so, and if it does not already appear on the agenda, pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council will not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Gary, do we have anybody calling in? Do you see any? No, not yet. Okay, so public, please come up and make your comments and identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Edward Chaika from Ginger Avenue. Sorry, I always get nervous whenever I get up to a podium like this, but been thinking about something for quite a while now, for the last 30 days, and felt today was probably the right time to say something like this. So many of you have volunteered yourself to make the community better. We don't always see or understand the dynamics of the decisions you have to make while in office. But we elected you to make good decisions on our behalf when they come up and in the interest of the community. This task is not without problems, as you cannot make everyone in the public happy on any issues that you face. And you're always going to catch flaks from members in the community. I'm sure just by being somewhere to support an event or an effort or even a business, there's always going to be somebody to criticize you. This is all too evident, especially after watching an election season. There's so much you choose to deal with when you put your arm to the square and swear an oath to act in the best interest of this community that so many of us don't really understand and probably take for granted. I know that I don't understand it all, but I know enough to realize that people in positions like yours rarely get praise and always get criticism. I came here to say something very simple, but I think it may carry more weight than 2 simple words. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering to lead our community. I can only imagine the sacrifices you endure to achieve your goal of servicing this community. From personal attacks, the constant stress, the endless hours putting in trying to do a good job, only to be second-guessed at every turn. Many of us know each and every one of you act with the community in mind, even if ideals or morals may be different from ours. I know I don't always agree with everything that you may or may not have done, but I also know that I don't understand the whole picture. I know that if I did understand it all, I wouldn't have time for my own family or my own job, just keeping up with all the stuff that you guys deal with. So again, I came here to say thank you to each and every one of you up there. And even those that have ran for office and maybe not have gotten it, regardless of whatever the outcome is. Thank you for all those that at least stepping up and trying to volunteer yourself to service the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. That is great.
Eric Bruin, 208 Barber Avenue. Good evening. I just have two quick public comments, as I had lots of masks that are no longer election proof. I had to grab my daughter's onesie out of the car. This is my pseudo mask for now because I obviously can't stay, and I apologize that I'm not going to be able to sit in the meeting tonight. I will be listening on from my office, where I am finishing the processing of 62 PPP forgiveness applications for different businesses in our community. I wanted to take a quick moment and thank the community on what was certainly an interesting campaign, and I want to acknowledge the incredible words. Sir, those were awesome words for the people that have served, and that their service means something. And I just want to make sure that I say that out loud, that everyone who has given to this community through public service, I beg of you, please let us pick your brains and your minds and your information and your hearts and your souls, and let's find a way to make all of those things just better for the community in the future. And let us please use all that knowledge and all that enthusiasm that you have on any projects moving forward, because that's what's going to make this community the best. Last night, a humorous photo happened between myself, Lindsay, and Christian Wesk, and it was perfect. Let's push this community forward. Let's start with unity as our first goal. And thank you very much. I'm honored. But I'm going to walk away because this is not very good as a mask. And secondarily, I got work to do. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you. Okay, is there other public comment? Okay, and there's nobody calling in? Thank you. All right, so then we will go to council announcements. Any council announcements?
I'll make one. I posted it on Facebook. The pool grant deadline has been pushed from December to March, so that's going to give us some more time. Jason has decided, in light of that, that we will not be discussing that at the next council meeting as originally planned. And also, we had talked about scheduling a public meeting in 2 weeks as well, and a special one, and that won't be happening then either. So,
Thank you. Kyle? Sir?
Mine is more of a comment than a announcement. I've lived in this community for a lot of years, and I've really enjoyed living in this community. I was a little saddened during this election, though, that some of the smear tactics that are on the national level actually came to our community. I had some relatives and some friends call me about some texts they got from some anonymous sources running down one of the mayoral candidates. In fact, a couple of them told me they were voting for that person because of the texts they got, which were anonymous, trying to smear this person's character. I hope that's just one or two people and not an indication of very many members of the community. That's the only thing I saw that was detrimental. I thought otherwise the election went fairly smoothly in town, not nationally, but in town. And so I hope that those people are embarrassed for what they sent out. And you know, that's the problem, I think, a lot with media now is you can smear somebody anonymously. And I don't put a lot of faith in anything, even nationally, that's anonymous. And I hope that in the future we won't have this happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have none, so the next item we are going to go to the podium because Mike had his knee operated on, is not going to go down, but the rest of us will go down.
and sit. I'm going to go down and sit.
Oh, are you? Okay, I lied, then you are
I'm
coming.
going to go down and sit.
I didn't lie, I made a mistake, sorry.
I'll go down the ramp, not the stairs.
Yeah, go down the ramp. Thank you.
Come on down, John. Aaron. Where you at, Matt? Come on. All you guys. Dan. Right up there. Right in the front row. Right there. That's good. Again, these normally would have been given out at our yearly awards dinner, but due to COVID, we had to push all that stuff, so we're doing these now. These gentlemen right here before you, last August 30th, were working. Matt was working for UPS at the time. Dan Armagita was a sergeant with us. John Gillette next to him. Matt in the middle with the gray shirt. Josh Pierce with the white shirt and his young daughter. And then Sergeant Aaron Tucker there on the end. And there was also another person that was working. He could not be here tonight. CHP officer Aaron Maurer. He unfortunately is on call for Sacramento. On that day, we were doing a bike giveaway at the schools and a school resource officer thing when they noticed a house on fire. So CHP officer Maurer and Officer John Gillette responded over there. The house was fully engulfed, and Sergeant Armagita and Aaron arrived along with Matt and Josh. So smoke was incredibly thick. They heard a person screaming from inside. So when they breached the door, I think Matt did that, correct? Breached the door, old school. And they couldn't see inside. So they got down and they were able to have around 8 to 12 inches of visibility under the smoke. And they could see a guy's socks. So they went inside. The man was in a wheelchair and he couldn't get out. He had a buckle on, seatbelt on. Matt, being the avid hunter he is, whips out his knife, cuts the seatbelt, they tip the chair over and drag the victim to safety. Another person was located. Sergeant Armagita grabbed her, drug her to safety, saving both of these people's lives. And Matt didn't dress like that. He had his little brown shorts on and stuff, but, Dan and the rest of the guys are in uniform. We don't have oxygen and all of those things. And these guys went in there with this house fully engulfed, and he's still alive thanks to these guys. So with that, each are being awarded the Ridgecrest PD Medal of Valor. Thank you, guys. Come on.
If they're okay with it.
Let's do it right now, Chief.
What's that?
Let's do it right now.
Huh?
Do you want us to do it right now, or you want to make a ceremony out of it?
Let me just go around the back.
I can't imagine what our lives here would be without all of you. Having these. Okay, you ready? Congratulations. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you. So, I asked them if it was hot, and they said, yeah, it was a little warm, but that's way above and beyond, and that is our highest honor that we give out. So, thank you again. Go ahead with your speeches now.
I just want to say thank you to the council. Thank you to these guys. That was one of my last shifts here at the PD, and I can't tell you how proud I am of these guys. This was a total team effort. These guys were tenacious in saving this gentleman's life, and I can't be more proud. And it didn't just stop with them. We had volunteers respond to the scene, and everybody just did an amazing job, and I couldn't be more proud, and I'm just happy to be part of the team. So thank you, gentlemen.
I just would like to say thank you to everybody that is here to support us. I can't say how much of an honor it is to serve a community such as Ridgecrest. Whenever we go back to Ridgecrest Strong, perfect example right here. It's not just law enforcement. It's not just firefighters. The actual community is up here supporting what we do. And if it wasn't for y'all, it wouldn't have happened. So thank you.
I agree. Ridgecrest is a great place to live. And this is just what we do. We watch out for one another. And that day on the scene, these guys were amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Josh had flip-flops on. Lost his flip-flops, burnt in the fire. And Ridgecrest is just a nice, tight-knit community. And I love it. Raised here, and will always stay here. It's a great place. Thank you.
Hello, thank you all for being here. Where do I start? I guess I could start with saying that I haven't been able to be present in my life due to addiction. Moving forward 3.5 years sober, I'm able to be a present for my family, for my own life, and for others. That day I was going to pick her up from school, and by the grace of God having me at the right place at the right time, I was able to, with the help of every man up here, get this guy to safety. And now I've moved to Camarillo, and I'm a substance abuse counselor. And yeah, God is good. Thank you, guys.
Just to reiterate what everybody else said, it was a team effort. These men right here, and Aaron, who's not here, CHP officer, went above and beyond. They're great assets to the community. very proud and honored to be up here with them. And thank you for all being here.
Got these.
Jessica, can I ask you a question? The family of these gentlemen served almost as much as they did. If your family, get a picture of them, but then the family, come on up, and let's get a picture of all of them. But, okay? Thank you. Come on up, family. You deserve all the credit, too.
You'll have to swap them around out there.
You actually gave me mine.
Oh, did I? See you later. Huh? Matt, Roland, come on up. Stand over there. We can fix this for you. There you go. So Officer Roland here was working April 13th of this year and responded to a possible gunshot victim over in the desert area off of Mahan. He arrived on scene, located the subject, who in fact had been shot in the leg and bleeding pretty heavily. So in his quick wisdom, he ran back to his car, grabbed a tourniquet, and went back to the subject, placed that tourniquet on him, stopped the bleeding, and the subject was then airlifted to AB Hospital down in Palmdale. And the helicopter medic later called the PD and said, had he not put that tourniquet on, which was, these are his words, not mine, applied extremely perfectly, he probably would have bled out. So, due to your quick thinking, Officer Rowland is receiving a life-saving award, but this is a special one. This is his 5th life-saving award in the past few years, so he is truly outstanding, and I thank you. Or we can go it over here. That way Mr. Maurer doesn't have to get up.
I can get up, I just can't stand for very long.
You may hold it.
No, thank you.
can come up.
You don't want your picture taken with him?
Come on, we'll get it. I'll take it.
Come on.
I'll take it. You're already on camera anyway, so.
So this has been a pretty good year. Wife and I are having twins. Dodgers won the World Series. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And now this. Thank you to the council. Thank you to the chief. Thank you to my coworkers, my partners, brothers and sisters. It's an absolute pleasure to work for you guys, for the city, and work with my colleagues. Thanks again.
Officer Franco couldn't make it tonight, so we'll do hers another evening. Thank you.
You should have got a write-up.
I should have.
Yeah.
That would be good. You right behind me?
In case you couldn't guess, we're very proud of you all. So again, our thanks. Okay. The next item is the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public or council to address the council concerning the items. The first item is proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council, Successor Redevelopment Agency, Financing Authority, Housing Authority, regular meeting dated October 21st, 2020. Is there anybody who'd like to have any of those items pulled? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is a discussion, and is Melissa going to? Yes, she is. It is a resolution to enter into a license agreement with the Chamber of Commerce to allow for the use of the electronic advertising sign community messaging board on city easement located on the corner of South China Lake Boulevard and West Bowman.
Kelly, we're on your item. Are you still there?
I sure am.
Okay, thank you.
Our screens are.
You're welcome.
Our screens are not on.
Yeah.
I text him. I think there's a problem. You guys will just have to.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, and the public. Tonight I bring forward the license agreement for the electronic sign that the Chamber of Commerce is looking to rehabilitate. It is located on the city easement, South China Lake Boulevard and Bowman Road. So a bit of background on the sign. The Chamber had previously had a memorandum of understanding and a conditional use permit in 2005 with the city. The sign was used to promote community events and promote other advertising for businesses. The sign has been damaged for several years and it has been inoperable. The Chamber of Commerce and the city have collaborated and we are looking to replace and repair the sign and they have gone through Planning Commission on September 9th and received a conditional approval for their conditional use permit. Planning Commission provided conditions of approval in terms of community development. We have 3 conditions. The chamber is to comply with all state, federal, and county, as well as local regulations. The second condition is that they enter into a lease agreement with the city council to allow usage on the city right-of-way, and they will also be responsible for the maintenance and repair for the sign and its base improvements. So the way that the electronic sign will be operated is it will be broken into community messaging and commercial and sponsored messages. For community messages, this includes city announcements, public service announcements, anything that school, religious, or civic organizations would like as local events for the area. For commercial and sponsored messages, this is related to business or companies or for-profit events, and this includes sales and other activities. There is a restriction in terms of price-specific items, and that will not be allowed on the sign. So at the bottom here, the usage percent, we had the previous MOU at 75% community messaging and 25% commercially sponsored messages. And our current agreement now that we've brought forth to you tonight is 50-50. This is due to the fact that we would like the chamber to use the extra revenue in order to maintain the sign. It is our understanding that 75-25 wasn't enough to upkeep the sign, so that is the reason we have agreed to 50-50. For content, we are allowing for obviously business services, promotional sales, and again, there's no price-specific items, and as well as events. The things that are prohibited are illegal activity, obviously, violence, tobacco, marijuana, and political advertising. We have allowed for advertising in terms of firearms and alcohol beverages, but those have been deemed between city staff and the chamber that it has not been deemed as controversial. So here is renderings of our current sign, and Kelly is on the line right now, and she's able to kind of speak a little bit more on the specifications of the size of the sign. The rendering here is not the size reference that the chamber is looking to do, but this is what the sign is looking like for us to move forward. And that is the end of my presentation. If anybody has any questions.
I have one, and you may have hit on it. I was trying to understand what you were saying. You can advertise alcohol on here?
In terms of the chamber wanting to allow alcohol, it was so places like the Flightline Tap Room can advertise if they're going to have a specific kind of sale or promotion. They wanted to cater to their members.
But you can't advertise tobacco.
No, that is something that we decided wasn't going to be advertised.
Okay, look, without sounding like I'm critical, let me just ask. So if one of the tobacco stores in our community want to advertise on it, they can't. But if a bar wants to advertise it or a grocery store selling alcohol, they can.
Yes. Now, the council has the discretion to change that. That's the purpose for the public meeting. We went off of the previous agreement that had restricted other things that we now allowed in, but we still kept the tobacco and marijuana. Primarily, probably not just to promote the tobacco products to the kids in town, but I do see your point about the alcohol, but it was sold in more in the way of the flight line and that sort of activity.
But there, in my mind, there is a difference between a restaurant advertising, come and eat our great food and we have super margaritas, as opposed to somebody says you can buy a half gallon of the best rum in the world for $9.95. I mean, I know I'm taking it to the nth degree. I just want to make sure we all understand the limitations of that.
As part of the agreement, there are no, you cannot list items for sale by price. That's restricted.
Okay.
So you can say they got the best, but can't say.
But they can't say what the price is.
I mean, you
Okay.
guys can change whatever you want in this agreement.
I have to ask a question. I'm not sure I'm in favor of having that on our, but I would like to see what the chamber has to say, Tim or Jan. Or council.
I was going to ask real quick. Oh, sorry, Doc, I didn't interrupt you.
Well, the very same thought crossed my mind when you were describing it. I love it. I think it's a fantastic idea. But I was thinking in my head, okay, if it's a legal business, then how do we gauge that? I mean, is it you picking and choosing on it? And I think that might pose a problem. And I was just wondering if it's going to be council supported, city supported. Maybe we might want to run it by our legal counsel and just find out, because we don't want to, have a conflict with, another business saying, hey, we're being, singled out here and not allowed to utilize this advertising. And so I feel it might be a glitch that would be worth looking at.
May I, Madam Mayor? This is Lloyd.
Go ahead, sir.
I am hearing, I was hearing an echo. Are you all hearing me okay?
Yes, sir.
Someone,
Okay.
the other caller may need to mute their phone while he talks.
Kelly, did you hear that?
All right, we'll give it a try.
Yeah, I'll mute
Thank
mine.
you.
Okay, somebody speak who wants to.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Lloyd Pilchin, City Attorney. So just to respond to Councilmember Heyman's comment, keep in mind that this is not a situation of the council imposing regulations on all signs in the city. This is not, in this case, the city council is not acting in its governing role. In this case, the city is entering into a private agreement with with the chamber, and it's a private contract. It's a negotiated contract. So if there's anything that the council wants to control over what's on that sign, the council is free to do that. I mean, provided that it's within the Constitution. So, it can't discriminate against anyone, but discriminate against protected classes of people. But you can certainly pick and choose what types of messages you want to promote. And this is a fairly common type of license agreement when a public agency owns a property and wants to get revenue by building a billboard on it. It's very common for the public agency to want to make sure that the agency is not associated with something with something that they don't want to be associated with. So we have in this license agreement no adult entertainment, for example, and the tobacco and the other things that were mentioned. But just to reassure Councilmember Heyman, it's fully within the council's powers to negotiate any restrictions that it likes in this license. Thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd, for clarifying that, and that satisfies my concern, and I'm good with it.
Let me follow up just one more with that. I know, Ron, you wanted to speak. Go ahead, speak.
Remember, this was just a negotiated agreement between the city and the chamber. We were both in agreement on these allowable items and restricted items. We initially had restricted firearms and alcohol. They came back, met with us, and based upon our discussion, we allowed both the firearm advertising and the alcohol. They did come back to us with a request for political advertising, and I think we said no to that for sundry reasons. But no, the city's not really trying to be overly burdened and restrictive on this. This was an agreement that we met. We all spoke. We're all in agreement with it. So I don't believe there's an item on here that the chamber, other than the political advertising, that we're in disagreement on.
Okay, the thing I wanted to follow up, it seems to me to pick and choose, this is good and this is bad, and this may be partly good and this may be partly bad, runs into discretionary items, because I assume they're going to come to you and ask to put it on their sign. Is that correct? They won't be working through us at all.
No.
Thanks, Tim. Okay, so it would seem to me we need to either allow everything that's legal except political, which I understand, or not allow everything and being able to pick and choose. I think it's putting a very difficult burden to maintain on a partner with us to say, okay, you can do this, but you can't do that, and you can do that, and no, I don't like this. So,
I will say sometimes maybe Tim can expand on this. I mean, you can advertise marijuana, but do we want that as a community, and does the chamber want that pressure from a marijuana company from Cal City advertising this way? Here it's in the agreement, it can be restricted. So, I don't want to restrict.
But it's not legal in our community, in the city of Ridgecrest.
It doesn't mean that Bakersfield or Lancaster cannot come up here and advertise for a distribution of it up here. So I look at this as not restricting businesses, but that sign belongs to the Chamber of Commerce. They're going to decide what they want to put on there. If you're really taking the libertarian view of it, then we should allow political activity, because that is allowed also. So we are restricting some activity based upon the city's interests. So staff is open to whatever council wants to approve. We were just trying to come up with a licensing agreement that made sense for our community, restricted a few activities that I think this community may be interested in restricting, and then we just go from there. Like I said, it is up to, if the chamber wishes to ask for those and council wishes to approve them, staff has no issues with that whatsoever.
Okay. Before we let the rest of the council speak, I see that someone is online who would like to speak. Please identify yourself and make your comment or questions.
Hello.
Please identify yourself.
Hi, this is Skip Gorman, and I live on Bowman Road in the city of Ridgecrest. So I drive by the weather-beaten predecessor of this particular sign. I wanted to thank the Chamber of Commerce for resurrecting it, but warn them. The horizon is littered with the victims of people who put up what they thought were robust structural signs, only to have Mother Nature have her way with them. That particular site and that particular sign is facing right into a wonderful wind that comes down out of the Spangler Hills and just smashes anything in its path. That site is a windy site, and I'm cautioning the chamber, whoever they deal with, make sure that this puppy is going to stand stoutly against strong wind. You'll have to get your contractor to sign up in blood that when the wind breaks, what he puts up first, he'll just have to put it up again. That was my only comment. Beware the wind, and good luck.
Thank you, Skip. Did any of you want to respond?
Peggy, I had to respond to your comment earlier.
Please.
Regarding the products,
You have to get closer.
these things aren't tall enough.
You're too tall.
In regards to the products, the chamber has previously had an understanding that we wouldn't do product placement on the advertisement, so it would be really advertising our local businesses to highlight what they sell, not in a way of, I'm going to throw out Bernie's just to say, hey, get your landscaping done at Bernie's, right? So that there's like not so much product specific advertising, but just the general knowledge and the reminder of what is available in our town. So that's kind of been the ethos of the sign over its history, and that's kind of where we're coming at it still from. So I think that might help speak to what your concern was. And then we do have Kelly, who is on the line on the phone from the Encore Imaging. She can tell us what the company that we're working with, and they've done. We were meeting with architect, and they're signing off on all of the wind restrictions. But Kelly, if you're on and you have comments, that'd be great. But thank you, Miss Peggy.
Hey Tim, before you leave, after we get done hearing from Kelly, can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
Thanks. Go ahead, Kelly. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. I think we've identified the strong winds. I mean, I think it's made to withhold 110 mile per hour wind load. So I really don't think that would be an issue.
So at 110 miles an hour, is that what you're saying, that it would withstand that kind of over a prolonged period of time? The reason I ask, as a past president of the chamber, I'm very proud of what the chamber does and stands for, and I am so glad you're doing this. I just don't want it to get to see at the point when the chamber was not able to maintain it. And I want it to be that we don't spend a small fortune on maintenance and repair, but still have it out there, because it's definitely needed and very appreciated by all.
Well, I can just say the manufacturer of the LED display, it's a very reputable company. Watchfire Signs, they are in Illinois. Their signs are built there. They just completed the Fremont Street canopy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. They were chosen out of 15 LED manufacturers to change out that canopy in downtown Las Vegas. These are very well built signs, and I really don't think that there's going to be an issue with, parts breaking and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
We've had real good success with these signs.
Okay, let's open it up to council, and then we'll open it back up to the public.
So I guess this question go to you, Tim, or Melissa. What's the maintenance schedule or program on this sign? Just so that it doesn't be, you guys have these answers, I'm sure, but I don't want it to become a blight. So how's that going to work out? If lights go out, if something breaks, if it's weather beaten, it needs to be painted, et cetera, et cetera.
One of the great things about the Watchfire technology is that they're like 12 by 12 squares, and so it's all laid out. So if one section of LEDs goes out, we can replace one panel and without replacing the entire sign, both sides. They also can scale to the specifics to show the age, so that the color on the new one won't be super bright and look funky, right, to the ones that have already been up there for a couple of years. So that part is really intriguing. We're going in at a great middle class sign quality for distance and how many lights per little space. I don't know all those details. But our hope is that over the course of the 5 to 10 years, that we would be able to upgrade and step the quality up as needed. So they have, I believe Kelly could speak to this, I think if my memory is right, it's a 10-year kind of usual age of these. So that's where the 50-50, if we can bring in 50% of the advertising as paid, it'll help offset the cost of putting it up there and then offset the cost of replacing it as we get down the road.
And is that on the chamber to fix it if something goes wrong?
Correct.
Okay. And when it comes to the things being placed, because we've been talking a lot about what's allowed, what's not allowed, who is going to be making that decision? That's the chamber, right? So if
Correct.
and I was actually very on board with, tobacco being on the prohibited list, and so I'm thinking through all the businesses in my head, and I believe there's a cigar lounge in our, in Ridgecrest. So I'm thinking, that's another discretionary item, right? They could come to you, and as long as they're not maybe advertising that they have certain products, right? Maybe it's just advertising for the business, and that's pitching that out to you to get out to the public to define that. So right now, what would that be, Tim?
Well, the reason the chamber board wanted to come back with the alcohol, and then that we started to talk about, actually was started with the firearms, because when we started to talk about political ads, we recently received a political candidate who also runs a firearm business in town. So we were thinking, the chamber board was thinking through what would that look like. So that's where we came back and asked the staff if we could address those two issues. When we then discussed the political pieces and talked a little bit of the nuances that the chamber board hadn't thought through of the bigger picture, the board was like, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. But we're happy to just extend the thought, the opportunity, and say if further down the road, if the council decided not to allow the alcohol or the firearms, we would feel better about returning back to our members and saying we advocated for it, but it didn't work out, rather than just saying, oh, we're not going to do that.
I'm just saying, like, if it's at your discretion, like, I like the idea. I mean, there's a lot of places in town that alcohol is part of the business, that makes money. That's good. You get that money. Same thing, like, when it comes to firearms. It could be the NRA dinners. That's good. Those types of things should be advertised. I'm just saying, is it you, the chamber, who makes the choice? And when somebody comes up and says, we want to advertise, that's you making that choice.
So there's the two elements, right? Yeah, so it is purely through the chamber, and it is our partnership with the city. So any of the city or the school districts or any of the community or nonprofits that come through and want to do the Respect for Law dinner or something, we're going to advertise for that as part of that community. And then we will only have a specific amount of space available for the paid advertising. And my hope is that for the most part, that is sold out by our local businesses on an ongoing, regular basis to provide that sustainable income for our business. So as I understand it, it will be on the chamber. And if there are any questions, as it's in the license agreement, the city can speak back to us, and we have a working relationship with the staff. And so it's a super quick call to say, hey, that one's not good. Let's switch that out a little bit.
Okay, but it's your discretion, and I think that's good. You've always served the community well. I'm just thinking, if we were to, I don't know how everybody else feels about this, allow tobacco, I don't know if that's us, the city staff, that prohibited that, or if that was the chamber. So again, I'm just saying, I would say that would be okay. But then you could be like, no, we're not doing this, not doing this. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll put them up on the board. Does that make sense? Okay.
There's also, I was just curious about reading about tobacco and advertising, because I remember when I was much younger, there being a big push about, like, they had the Camel, right, and that being an issue. But there's also a lot of requirements if you were to advertise tobacco on, like, it says like 20% of the sign has to be the warning label about tobacco's health risks and things. So that's something else that I think it's probably best, just like you decided before with, like, the political advertisement, there's a lot more rules that you would have to follow if you allowed that. So that might save you some headaches as well. And plus, then there wouldn't be the concerns of promoting it to children.
Mike?
I'll speak after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why I was advocating maybe to the rest of the council that maybe we remove tobacco from the prohibited list.
I like it on the list.
Okay.
I want to hear from Ed, but personally, I have no problem with it as presented. And I think tobacco should not be on the list. First of all, tobacco has the warning, it does cause cancer. I don't drink, so I don't know if a bottle of beer says don't drink it because it causes health problems, only when you're driving. But I have no problem with it the way it has been presented personally.
Is there any comments from council for right now? Okay, Ed, do you want to come up and speak?
So I just had two things I was wanted to kind of point out. There's lots of things we kind of look at in regards to putting products or anything like that that may be UV treated or UV protected. That maybe we may want to look at just a little bit closer, because there may be a rating for an item that might maybe UV protected and should be rated for survival in the sun. But I've seen stuff get cooked even though it is UV treated here in the desert, and just moving 50 miles in a different direction. And those same products would survive, but they will not survive as long here because of the way the UV hits items here. So you may want to do just a little bit of research into that, or see if there is some sort of a extra liability or warranty in regards to that. Just advisory on that. Just I have some things I put for some of my light show stuff outside that's supposedly UV rated, but they always turn yellow, and then the colors dim, and it's not as vibrant as it should be. The other one was to just kind of listen to kind of conversation and whatnot. Looking at it this way from the perspective of the businesses and the stance that the council may be taking. Let's just say this weekend only 25% off. That's it. Maybe just this is a matter of the curation of the content, and that's fine. But let's just go ahead and take the concept of this weekend only 25% off. Now let's insert the business name. John's Pizza, the Smoke Shop, the Beer Cave, Stater Brothers. Are we really going to discriminate against those businesses? Because the reality is, that's the perception that's going to come from the council. Now, I understand that the concept of banning a particular product, that makes sense, but the reality is, it's the perception of, let's just take something simple, 25% off this weekend only. Now, the business name. That's discriminatory towards that entire business, regardless of, hey, we're not putting a product on there, that's fine. We're not putting a logo. The liability of, hey, the tobacco, I get it, I understand that. But that's still discriminating an entire business, and the visibility of what the council is doing to that business and what they're going to view that as.
Well, I think that comes back to kind of what I said. If it's legal, allow them to advertise it. If it's not legal, don't allow them to advertise it. Now, that comes down to the discretion of the chamber, I think, because to do a 25% off this weekend and then charge them extra for putting it up and taking it down and all that kind of stuff, I don't think it's fair for us to determine what should be on the sign if we're not going to be responsible for it. The responsibility is our partnership, and make sure we do what's right, and those businesses whose support you must need to continue to operate and to fund the sign ought to be allowed. Whether I like it or not, that ought to be the chamber's discretion, not the city council's discretion.
So I think it goes back to Ron or Tim. Was it us? Was it our city staff, or was it the chamber that made those decisions?
Well, part of this was a template from 2005 that was approved by the council. And the other part was, I think that, yeah, if we allow it to be wide open, one, then it doesn't give the chamber cover if they want to say no to something, because now there's no restrictions. But I also think the city does have an interest in what's on that board at times, because when there are issues up there, they're going to be looking at the chamber and the city for what we have done. Now, if it turns out there's a business out there that, we didn't think of, that somehow or other falls underneath this restriction, we can always make that adjustment. But I think that, you can have strip clubs That's legal. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things on there. You have the law of unintended consequences. So you have to kind of restrict it just a little bit. But even with the small restriction, they're still wide open to advertise a significant amount of issues. And like I said, I think that from the city's perspective, from staff's perspective, we restrict a little bit if it becomes problematic. If you have some business out there that feels that they're being discriminated against, which I don't think is the case because you don't have a right to, advertise, then they can come back to staff and we can work our way through it. But if we just leave it wide open, then you do have the ability to have, people advertising just by their name, 25% off Smokey Joe's in Cal City. Do we really want that up on the chamber board?
I don't think you want to advertise outside businesses.
But there's no restriction to that. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
as the chamber, you have them join and charge them double for being outside the city, the Indian Wells Valley, the Ridgecrest area, or something. But I mean,
I don't want to micromanage the chamber.
I don't either.
I think the way they presented it, I think staff's put some time in it, the chamber's put some time in it. I think Lindsay's point about tobacco have to have the restrictions and everything on there. I think that's natural to limit that. I think that's what they're limiting is proper, and I don't think we should put any other restrictions or take any restrictions off.
Well, I would have normally agreed with you if I couldn't think of a business. Like I said, I can think of that cigar lounge that's over there. I forget the exact address. I don't see why the cigar lounge itself couldn't advertise. And that's the only reason I'm saying that. I agreed. I thought this was great until I could think of a business that would want to advertise. There's two?
Two of them, yeah.
And again, they're not doing product placement. And like Lindsay said, you already wouldn't want to do product placement anyways, because then the whole sign would be taken up. I don't think that anybody would want to do that. And then on top of that, the chamber has a discretion. They could say, we don't want you up on that board, correct?
That's right. And
Yeah.
let's leave it that way. Let them. First of all, I think the billboards along China Lake Boulevard are they licensed by the city? I thought they were years ago. I don't know if they still are. But if those are licensed, we certainly don't tell them what they can and cannot have on those signs.
No, they're not licensed.
So are they all on private property? Because I was told years ago by a council member that they were licensed by the city.
No, they are. Well, I would assume they had to have a permit to be placed because of the size of the sign. But as for the advertisement,
We don't tell them anything about what they can advertise or can't advertise.
no, it's on private property. I think the only contact we had with them was getting the permit to be able to place the sign on the property.
Okay.
So where are we, Council?
I motion approval as it's written.
I second that. Thank you.
As it is right now?
Yes.
With the limitations we have listed?
Yes.
As it was presented, with those specific limitations, yes.
Chamber, since you were part of that agreement, you have no problem with that? Okay. So motion?
You got a motion?
You got a motion,
Roll
got a
call.
second, okay.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
No.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
No.
We have 3 ayes, 2 noes from Mr. Heyman and Mr. Blades. The motion does carry.
Thank you. Thank you, Chamber. Thank you for your work with staff to make this happen. I know that you are going to have some issues you'll have to deal with, and you got it. Thank you. Okay, the next item is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council to reinstate the junior accountant position in the Finance Department. Sharif?
Good evening, Council. This is a request to reinstate the junior accountant position in the Finance Department. In fiscal year 20, the junior accountant position was removed from the budget in order to add an accounting supervisor position to make up for the loss of the assistant finance director. Right now, the Public Works Department, in combination with Wildan, handles all wastewater-related billing, and with only one full-time employee, the wastewater billing has fallen behind. This resolution would allow for the Finance Department to take over the billing and all related financial transactions. This position would be funded by the wastewater fund for the remainder of fiscal year 21, and then distributed appropriately between wastewater fund and the general fund for fiscal year 22, depending on the actual workload. However, we do believe that the majority of the workload will be wastewater related tasks. And with that, I'm open for any questions.
I have one. Do I understand that the $5,167.82, sorry, am I speaking too loud? My hearing aids attacking the microphone. Does that mean that cost will come out of what we would normally have paid? And we will then pay $31,500. Is that what I understand?
So the $31,500 is for the remainder of this fiscal year, but we would not be paying that $5,100 to Wildan.
And that would go for every year as long as that position? Okay.
Correct.
Just to add to this, as you know, we've been working on the new wastewater treatment facility. We just finished the agreement with the Navy. Now we're moving forward. During this process, we have obviously examined the wastewater facility, how it operates, where our issues that need to be addressed are at. And this is one of those items that has come up that needs to be addressed by the city. This is something that should be incorporated as part of the wastewater operations budget. Separating the billing from the Public Works Department is, in my view, is appropriate. The current analyst does not have the time to address this appropriately because of her workload, and this will allow us to obviously keep up on the billing process, which is important for the revenue as well as for the ongoing auditing of the accounts.
Is there any discussion from council?
I just have a couple questions on the topic that the mayor brought up, the 30-something thousand. So would that 5,000 be taken off of that, the Wildan amount? So it won't be 31,000. Would it be 24 something?
Yes and no. They're different accounts. So we budgeted this $5,000 in a separate expense account, and we just wouldn't be spending that.
And then my second question follows with what Ron was talking about with the building of the new wastewater treatment facility and the tasks that are required to operate and maintain that. Do we have, when we take funds out to build, a new facility, will we offset and keep back a certain amount of funds that revenue will continue to come in, and will that money be used directly to pay for these types of specific tasks related to the wastewater facility, so that it's not coming, so to say, out of the general budget?
Right. This will be part of the operation and maintenance aspect of the facility. Right now we pay Wildan $5,000 a year, primarily because the legacy employee that knew how to build the spreadsheet to provide the information to the county for the 218 to put on the property taxes left, and it's been difficult to keep up on the list. We've hired Wildan. We feel we can do it much accurately and better in-house, which is what I think we need to do. There's a lot of complexities to this. Every year we have new homes that are built, new businesses that are built, they need to be added to the list. We have businesses that open, they need to be tracked and billed appropriately because most of those are volumetric, and we get those numbers through the water district, so we have to make sure that the list that we get from the water district on water usage is accurate, because at the end of the day, these are our customers. We have to make sure that if we're billing them correctly. We do have some residences out there that are not being billed, that haven't been billed for a while. We had an incident where we had an apartment complex that was being overbilled for probably 20 years that we provided a refund to. So this is just a matter of good practice and principle. When you identify an issue, we need to address it. And so this is what this position is going to do.
And
thanks.
And back when I was on Finance Committee, we did an analysis over the overhead that was charged to special funds. And so on occasion, we do that so that we would make sure we're not charging too much of this position to that fund unfairly.
Right. Every year we contract through HDL for our overhead rates toward the enterprise funds.
Okay.
So that was an issue that was an issue 3 years ago that we've addressed. And like I said, every year we get a report back from them on, I don't know if it's HDL or
cost recovery
RCS. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Every year we get a report back on what our appropriate overhead rate should be. And we did adjust the overhead rate to where we're not charging it based upon what we anticipate that year will be. We go backwards. We go based upon our history. So some years it will be shorter than others. It'll be, more of an overhead, less of an overhead, but it's based upon our experience from the previous year. So we never have to go back through and what was a common term that we used for several years was true up the accounts. We don't have to true up because we're using numbers from the previous year. So we solved that huge issue that we had with our budget, which created conflict with the citizens. That was one of the primary reasons why the Finance Committee one of the reasons why the Finance Committee was established.
Yeah. So I feel comfortable with this process because then we know in another year it will be reviewed.
Yeah, we just need to make sure we do our audits and that the accounts are appropriate and that the people are getting billed for the right service.
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Is there no questions from the public?
I motion.
No call in? Okay, a motion?
Motion approval.
Second.
Wow. Yay.
Mayor Breed.
Yes.
Mr. Mauer.
Yes.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. The next item, resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council supporting modification of the jurisdictional status on Naval Air Weapons Station, Channel Lake.
Hey, Madam Mayor, real quick, I'm going to have
You're gonna have
step
to
out of
leave.
this one too. Yeah,
Yep.
so.
Thank you for being cognizant and following up on that because I didn't remember it, but thank you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm just trying to be responsible for the city,
We
just to make sure
understand.
I'm doing things right.
So Madam Mayor, this is Floyd.
Yes, sir.
Ricka should show in the minutes that Councilmember Blades recused himself from this item.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Thank you.
You
Jed?
can say on the advice of Navy Council.
Okay.
Okay, go, sir.
Thank you. Before you, we have the Department of the Navy is requesting a letter of support to change their jurisdictional status on Navy property. Currently, the property is listed as proprietary jurisdiction, and they want to change to concurrent legislative jurisdiction. And it's, even though the letter of support, this still has to go up through the state pursuant to the Government Code, Section 126. And in a nutshell, what it is doing is changing the way that the China Lake PD or security force out there enforces laws. And currently, the Secretary of the Navy gives them authorization to enforce California law with a waiver from myself, Kern County Sheriff, Inyo County Sheriff, and San Bernardino County Sheriff. So with the change, what it means is they would no longer write like California sections under the Penal Code, Vehicle Code. They would actually write under, if it didn't exist in any of our sections, then they would be able to issue federal citations, which they cannot right now. And the Secretary of the Navy has stated that he is no longer going to provide that waiver for them because they are the only installation within the Navy that has it. Everybody else has changed their jurisdictional status. What it means for us, according to the Department of the Navy is no change for us. We would still continue to assist them on mutual aid emergencies, but we're not responsible for responding to calls or traffic or anything like that on the installation. I'll go ahead and take questions because it's very convoluted, if you have any.
When I first got this letter and I brought it to staff, and I said, they want an answer back in 3 days.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
And obviously, they didn't get the answer back in 3 days, and I'm glad we were able to come to that agreement and understanding that there's no way we can answer back, and certainly the mayor can answer back for the entire city. So I appreciate the work you put into it, because I know it's been a month and a half, 2 months that we've been working on this. And so, Jed, thank you, and staff, all their help. If you're happy with this, and it doesn't seem that it changes much for us other than that we do not have to respond.
Right, and that includes within the gate, all their property within the gate and off the gate. So, that's what the lieutenant, the JAG, had advised, that there is no. We won't even notice a difference. They will notice a difference out there, but we won't. They'll have to go to federal court in Bakersfield, more than likely, and that's really what it means, is they'll be enforcing more federal law. And if the federal law does not have a section, just to use one for an example, such as like DUI, then the Simulated Crimes Act kicks in, and the punishment is under California law, whichever state they're in. Then they follow what the state law does as far as sentencing and punishment, fines and such.
Any other questions or comments? Any other questions from the public? Okay, motion?
Motion approval.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens. I was
Aye.
so used to go with Blades, I was just going to say Ms. Blades, but I apologize. Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes, 1 abstention.
Okay, the
Boy,
next,
Lindsay, you're quick tonight. You're making every motion.
Yeah, she's on it.
are we getting Kyle back in? Okay. Okay, so we'll note that Kyle is returning to the meeting, has been outside, and did not participate in any of the discussion. Okay, nor did he vote. The next item is committee reports, Finance Committee.
Have not met.
Infrastructure?
I wasn't at the last meeting.
Yes. We met and we discussed the crossing that and the,
Crosswalk at Downs and North Flores. Is that what it was?
yeah, just kind of over farther, I guess, a little bit from, well, I guess it's at down, yeah. So on the west leg of that road. And what we determined is that the cost was quite extravagant because there is no sidewalk along Las Flores on the south side. And so we would have to build a sidewalk along ways, as well as there is a giant utility pole there. And so I believe what we were thinking would happen would be maybe a warning sign placed pending a site visit by Ms. Okay. Great. So we decided to go that route, as that was going to be the because I forget what was it like $60,000 or?
A minimum of
30, yeah, is what he said.
Okay, yeah. Because then moving the light pole as well. So, and some of the.
You had to redo the handicap ramp because of the
Yeah.
And then provide a 6-foot sidewalk from there down to where the sidewalk started again.
Yes.
I'm sorry if the public can't hear me, but if you repeat.
Yeah. So we had to redo the ADA and add a 6-foot wide sidewalk, possibly a wall. Wasn't that discussed as well because of the slope? And so just once we started looking at the cost of that, decided, and we can't add a crosswalk at the, I cannot think of that other road. That's where they were actually crossing at because it's too close to the intersection. So
Mid-block crossings are not a good idea.
yeah, it's a mid-block, it's a high-speed road. So that's why we're just going to put up a kind of a sign letting them know that children are in the area so that they slow down. And that was what the best that we could come up with for now.
It's okay. I'll just be a little disappointed.
If someone would like to donate, or the school district, maybe if they found that they thought it was necessary. But at this time, we just felt that using Measure V funds for that was probably not the maximum usage. So, was what the panel committee had decided. So
That was, I was Mr. Mauer at that
Yes.
meeting, so.
So,
Okay. The next item is the Economic Development Committee.
we have not met.
Parks, Rec, and Quality of Life.
Yes, we met on Monday, which was prior to knowing that the application had been moved, the deadline had been moved. At that meeting, we discussed selecting a location. It was pretty much decided that likely it would be Penny Pool because of the extra cost if we went to a different site. And really, there wasn't a good alternative anyways for a site. One was in the middle of a neighborhood, which wouldn't work out very well for a public pool, and the other was in the business park, which would require us to purchase land, even though we're one of the owners. And then we decided the utility costs would be significant and eat up a lot of the budget. So for now, it looks like it will be at Penny Pool. And as I mentioned, we had originally thought we were going to have another meeting. We were going to be kind of wrapping this up, but now that it's been bumped, we have more time, which is nice. And so we'll still be getting those cost estimates on maintenance from Councilman Hunsacker, the consultant that IWV EDC has paid for, as well as, and it gives us more time to look at what features we could actually afford in $8.5 million. So it's nice that there's a little bit more time. We can have more public meetings so that we can really maximize that public meeting point scoring. So anything else that I...
Other than that, we'll be bringing back some parts of it probably to council and at least to the finance committee. There were questions as to how much the maintenance costs were going to be, and we won't know that until we get the reports back from Hunsacker's office. And once we do have those numbers, then we'll discuss it with finance and maybe bring it back to council as a discussion on what the city and the council feels we can afford and how we're going to go about it, and give our green light to that.
Yeah, because it will definitely have to come back to council still because we have to make a 30-year commitment to
We'll
farm
have-
maintenance.
But this will soften up the time constraints quite a bit, so we'll have ample time to bring it on board. So
yes,
I had a question. Sitting out there listening to the meeting, there was 2 or 3 different comments made about if we are unable to maintain the pool and the facilities all for 30 years, we have to pay back the $8.5 million grant. And many of the people seemed to think it was not many. Some of the people made the comment, and others who agreed with their comments, that we would not be able to do that, or we didn't have enough knowledge to do that at the time to try to say, yes, we are going to be able to maintain it. And it seems to me that it would be appropriate, and this is somebody sitting back there listening and hearing the side talk that was going on, that we might want to look at given the parameters of what we can make, knowing what we made on Penny Pool and the improvements that can be made, can we make the parameters of the pool and the facility match what the income is rather than trying to, or what we think the potential income is, rather than trying to say, okay, we got to come up with 30 million every year. I know that's outrageous, but it seems to me they were trying to look at it from a backwards point of view rather than trying to say, how do we make it work knowing this is what we have?
Right. But so one thing that we know, and I think IWV EDC discovered this with their aquatic center, pools are not typically revenue neutral items.
Right.
So that's going to be one, unless you charged a huge entrance fee, which then likely people wouldn't be able to afford. So it's really striking that balance. And that's why also having this extra time will be nice, because it will allow us to say, but we do know we used to subsidize Penny Pool by $80,000 a year, which it cost $160,000 a year to operate. But if we add in features like solar and a cover, those make it more efficient so that that can also help it. And so that's part of what Councilman Hunsaker is analyzing. And so I think we know that we're going to have to put out some kind of money for maintenance and upkeep of the facility.
I also think that on that topic, that the design can be geared toward the maintenance output.
Exactly.
And that will buy us time.
That's a better way of saying what I was trying to.
And so we
Thank
can.
you.
I would think that we could look at it and say, well, if this is our parameters of maintenance output, then with the design we can maybe have more structures and features that are less maintenance parts of it.
Right.
But the pool itself designed in a way that fits in that shoe box.
And augmenting the income.
Yeah, and I think we'll be going over that kind of stuff
Yeah.
too. And so, but yes.
I can guarantee you one thing, I won't be here 30 years from now.
We'll come talk to you.
I think this pool is going to be a good catalyst. I think it's going to be a good catalyst for the town, because I think what's going to happen is when Councilman Hunsaker comes back with this is what it's going to cost, this is what your possible design is going to be, and maybe the cities, us, the council, city staff, are going to have to work on what we can afford. Then the citizens of Ridgecrest are going to have to make that decision. Do we do something? Do we take it a step further? Right? Because there was, I think, before I was on the council, we tried to pass a parks tax that didn't go through, and the public didn't think that it was worth it at the time. But it could be we get to the point to where a pool that, because when I was in that meeting sitting out there, everybody really stressed they wanted a competition pool, so they could have everybody compete at it, and it could be to the point where the citizens decide that, all right, maybe a parks tax can work.
Yeah,
Maybe
and that's been brought up and quickly discussed, but I think when we get to that finance aspect of it, that's where we're going to be talking with the city manager, talking with finance, talking with the city itself, and finding out what's our options and avenues that we're going to pursue to be able to.
So I know a big question that came up multiple times was, what's that breaking point?
Yeah.
But that breaking point could move if the citizens decide that it should. But anyway, it was a good meeting. I was glad to watch it.
Okay. All right. The next item is any other, the RICVB, they haven't met, correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Then the other committees, boards, or commissions?
League of California Cities, I need to report out that, remember when we had that very long discussion? Remember, Mike, you were wanting me to zip it? We were, that long discussion about it was cities holding companies responsible, and it became a national conversation.
In all fairness, I thought you were going to read a 65-page report. So
it was only 8 pages. So the city of Ridgecrest, as advised by the council, I voted no as a delegate. It passed, but there wasn't a quorum. So it was, I'm just letting you know that's how it turned out.
So it didn't pass then?
Well, what they were going to do is, since there wasn't a quorum, they were going to pass it on to their staff, and they still might write something up, et cetera, et cetera. But it still went. It's in a national conversation. Lindsay, like you brought up, they're going to handle it at the national level anyways, so at the federal level. And they were having...
Were there many other cities that agreed with us?
There were, and all for the exact same reasons. There was a worry about the First Amendment, so, and that's okay. I think it was like 40% of the cities, and the League of California Cities has a meeting coming up on November the 19th.
Thank you. Okay, city managers report.
Nothing at this time.
Future agenda items. Mayor and council comments.
I have a quick comment. That is that the cinemas is going to open up this Friday, November the 6th, right? And they're going to open, I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you just got to get online and check their hours. I just want to make sure I got that out to the public because with COVID, I know they're a hard-hit business, and I hope everybody's getting out and supporting them. That's it.
Good. Anybody else? Okay,
Oh,
then.
I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
mine will be quick. I just want to give a shout out to 713 Aileen Street. This individual's putting on Christmas lights again this year, and he's been working very hard for many weeks, and will continue to work until he gets everything up and running. And so I told him I'd give him a shout out, and so I want everybody that's listening, participate, come out and see what these hard-working folks are doing for the community for Christmas, and they're not letting up on it. So anyway, you'll hear more. And anyone else out there in the community that has lighting displays going on and would like to get a shout out, please send us an email to the city council. Thanks.
713?
713 Aileen, yeah.
Okay. All right, I see no other council comments, and we will adjourn. Thank you all. I'm so glad to see you all here again. Go, Mike, go.